Senator Yoaki Elwe representing Odo Central. Mr. President, I rise to move that the Senate do receive and consider the report of Committee on Ethics, Privileges and Public Petitions in respect of a petition from Sir Daniel N. Shukudi on behalf of Hardy Oil Nigeria Limited, Bayelsa Oil Company Limited, BOCL, and Century Exploration and Production Limited, CEPL, against Nigeria Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission, NUPRC, formerly known as Department of Petroleum Resources, for alleged illegal and fraudulent revocation of Atala Marginal Field, OML 46, and is re-awarded to Harkin Exploration and Production Limited by UPRC in breach of due process and presidential directive. I so move, Mr. President. Thank you.
Mr. President, Gershon Bassi, Cross River South. Mr. President, I rise to second the motion ably moved by Senator Ayo Aki-Elure. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the motion that the Senate do.
Report of Committee on Ethics, Privileges and Public Petitions in respect of petition from Sir Daniel N. Shukudi on behalf of Hardy Oil Nigeria Limited, Bayelsa Oil Company Limited, BOCL, and Century Exploration and Production Limited, CEPL, against Nigeria Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission, NUPRC, formerly known as Department of Petroleum Resources, for alleged illegal and fraudulent revocation of Atala Marginal Oil Field, OML 46, and is re-award to Harkin Exploration and Production Limited by UPRC in breach of due process and presidential directive. Mr. President, the Senate will recall that on Tuesday, 5th of October 2021, I, as the chairman, rose on Order 41 to lay petition referred to his committee from the Office of President of the Senate and drew the attention of the Senate to a petition from Sir Daniel N. Shukudi on behalf of Hardy Oil Nigeria Limited, Bayelsa Oil Company Limited, and Century Exploration and Production Limited against Nigerian Upstream Regulatory Commission, NUPRC, formerly known as Department of Petroleum Resources, DPR, for alleged illegal and fraudulent revocation of Atala Marginal Field, OML 46, and its re-award to Harkin Exploration and Production Limited by NUPRC in breach of due process and presidential directive, and urge the Senate to look into the matter. Mr. President, after thorough investigation and from the receipt of respondents and petitioners and respondents, Mr. President, the committee came up with the following findings and recommendations from page 14. Page 14. Page 14. Observations and findings, Mr. President. After carefully studying the presentation and submissions made by the petitioner and respondent, the committee noted as follows. 1. That the Department of Petroleum Resources, DPR, known as Nigeria Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission, NUPRC, was misinformed by Harkin Exploration and Production Limited that it had invested $60 million on the Atala field to bring it to production, and that the revocation of the marginal field was based on this false information supplied by Harkin Exploration and Production Limited, and therefore the recommendation for the revocation of the Atala marginal field by the Department of Petroleum Resources, DPR, to Mr. President and Honorable Minister of Petroleum, Honorable Minister of Petroleum Resources through the Minister of State for Petroleum, was deemed not to have followed due process, but because of falsehood. 2. That in the same way, the reward process did not follow due process and was contrary to the presidential directive in rewarding the 10 revoked marginal field. Consideration be given to their original operators. This not being the case, the committee noted with concern. A. That the Nigeria Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission, NUPRC, or Department of Petroleum Resources, BTPR, as the case may be, did not invite Hardy Oil Limited Bayelsa Oil Company Limited and Century Exploration and Production Limited to bid for a reward as directed by the President of the Nation and the Minister of Petroleum Resources. Therefore, the action of DPRU contravene Mr. President's directives and negate the principle of fairness, equity, and justice. B, that the NUPRC representative at the committee public hearing, Dr. Kelechi Ofeibo, was unable to provide the committee with details of how the bidding process was done. How the bidding process was done, showing how Hacking Exploration and Production Limited became the choice company to be awarded the Atala Marginal Oil Field OML 46. Similarly, he was unable to prove that Hacking Exploration and Production Limited had invested $60 million on the Atala Marginal Field as claimed in a written document before the committee. C, that up to now, up to the time of writing this report, documentary evidence requested by the committee to prove that Mr. President of the Nation, Mr. President and Commander-in-Chief, and Minister of Petroleum Resources reversed his initial presidential directive on the need to consider the previous operators of the revoked oil field, especially that which belonged to a federated unit and its joint venture partners. The Bayelsa Oil Company Limited could not be provided by the NUPRC up to this moment. D, that the committee was convinced that the action of the Department of Petroleum Resources to have returned 9 out of 10 oil fields to their original operators, but left out Atala Marginal Field that belonged to a Bayelsa state government through Bayelsa Oil Company Limited (BOCL) and its joint venture partners, and failing to invite the joint venture partner to take part in the bidding process as directed by Mr. President of the Nation, but went ahead to reward it to Hacking Exploration Production Limited is considered unfair to BOCL and its joint partners. That moreover, the situation that arose that time when Mr. Charles E. Dogu acted in dual capacity as the managing director of Bayelsa Oil Company Limited and that of Hacking Exploration and Production Limited at the same time, contrary to the Code of Ethics of Public Officers at the time the award process was concluded in favor of Hacking Exploration and Production Limited, breached the Code of Ethics, and therefore insider trading is suspected to have taken place in the documentation for award process. That the claim of Hacking Exploration and Production Limited that a memorandum of understanding and farming agreement and service agreement set to be executed with BOCL and the JV partners assigning 41% out of BOCL 51% participating interest in Atala Marginal Oil Field with operatorship to Hacking AGIL with consideration of $4 million payable instrumentally as follows: $500,000, $1,500, and then $1,500, $500,000, and $2 million respectively to BOCL and JV partner owners of Atala Marginal Oil Field was false, and no evidence of such condition was provided the committee by Hacking up to now. Therefore, the oil field was erroneously revoked based on wrong information supplied to NUPRC, which formed the basis of wrong revocation of Atala Marginal Oil Field by NUPRC without regard to the presidential directive. That the Committee of Ethics is convinced beyond reasonable doubt that the reward of Atala Marginal Oil Field OML 46 did not follow due process, and therefore request that the marginal fee be returned to Bayelsa Oil Company Limited and its partners. Recommendations. Based on the finding of Mr. President and District Colleague, the committee hereby recommend as follows: that since the revocation of Atala Marginal Oil Field OML 46 was based on misleading information supplied by Hacking Exploration and Production Limited, and secondly, since NUPRC was unable to produce written evidence that Mr. President Muhammad Buhari, GCFR, who is also the Minister of Petroleum Resources, actually reversed his initial directive on the consideration of the owners or operator of the Atala Marginal Field for the award, as claimed by the representative of NUPRC, Dr. Kelechi Ofeibo, at a public hearing, the committee therefore strongly recommend that the Atala Marginal Oil Field OML 46 be returned to its original owners or operators in line with presidential directives, which was applied in returning the other 9 marginal fields to their original owners or operators. Conclusion, Mr. President, my most distinguished and respected colleagues, on behalf of the Senate Committee on Ethics, Privileges and Public Petition, I appreciate the Senate President and leadership of the United Senate for the opportunity to serve in this capacity as the voice of the voiceless Nigerian in the Senate of Federal Republic of Nigeria. I so submit for consideration, Mr. President. Thank you.
We'll look at this report properly and make sure that justice is done. You say, Mr. President, the President of the Federal Republic cannot give instruction, and the people working under him disobey such. This matter was taken, dragged from 2021 to present, and this matter was brought to the committee. We followed all the due process, took all the time to ensure fair hearing, and at the end of the day, we discovered that there was collusion, insider trading and all that. I'm of the opinion that the report as presented by this committee be upheld by this Senate and ensured that full implementation of that or presidential directive should be returned, be upheld. And then this oil field returned. Bayelsa has a company that is interested in this. The BOCL, this Atala oil field should be returned in line with the other 9, so that the Niger Delta region, especially Bayelsa State, should not be restive. I so submit. Thank you so much.
James Ebiowo, Manager, CEO in Delta South. Mr. President, this report, as read out by the chairman, is a very straightforward report, unambiguous. These particular people appeared before us several times, and they were asked questions pointedly as to whether or not the president himself has not given the directive. And they all answered in the affirmative, but somebody somewhere misdirected them in a way. And so the committee came to an irresistible conclusion, going by all that is before the committee, as read out by the chairman. And that's the reason why the committee is making this very important recommendation to the committee, to Senate at plenary. Of course, the Bayelsa government has made a very serious case. And the case is also very clear. It's a serious, that is an oil-producing state, undoubtedly, and very soon I'm sure so many other states, even in the north, will be oil-producing. And it's better for us to encourage states to do this. Bauchi is now oil-producing. Some other states are also oil-producing that have been added to the list. So, Mr. President, mine is just to buttress the fact that these are what the President, Mr. Chairman, has presented. It's just the fact, and nothing but the facts. And therefore, I want to urge the Senate to approve this very unambiguous recommendation by the committee chairman. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you, Mr. President. Gashambasi, Cross River South. For me, I want to commend the committee on what has been a very thorough job. It's not easy to move around in the oil and gas sector and unearth some of these inconsistencies that have eluded the due process in this bid round. The idea that a state government, like my colleague, Senator Manager, said, would win a bid for a marginal field, and that bid is taken away from them and given to a private company, ignoring all the due process and based on false facts or false information, is something that we must abhor in this Senate. It can't happen, it shouldn't happen. And I want to congratulate our Committee on Ethics and Privileges for unearthing all these inconsistencies and coming to what I think, in my opinion, is the right conclusion. So I want to urge the Senate to adopt this report wholeheartedly and completely and in its totality, and ensure that it is fully implemented by the Upstream Regulatory Commission. Thank you.
To hijack what belongs to a federal unit to this company. And all the fight before the committee that they have invested $60 million, they couldn't provide it before the committee. And Mr. President gave a directive that all the 10 revoked oil fields should be returned back to the region by giving them consideration. They excluded the one that belonged to the federation by giving them consideration. They returned 9 and took this one that belonged to a federated unit without actually compensating them for what they have invested. They claim to have invested $60 million when they invested nothing. And we now ask, okay, has Mr. President reversed his own directive? The answer was no. They said they want to provide it. Up to today, they never provided. They ran away. And therefore, the committee came to conclusion that way. What belonged to a federation unit will be returned back to them. And then that's the position of Mr. President. Thank you.
First is refusal to implement the presidential directive, right?
Yes.
And then the second one is acquisition through false documentation or whatever it is. Is that it? Chairman? If the documents are false and there is no document to show that the initial presidential directive or approval was reversed or cancelled, then they have no grounds, no basis not to implement the presidential approval. Yes.
And incidentally, each of the times it came up, I was there. They came and made a case, and we tried to look through the papers. And after some time, they were no longer coming. They refused to come. And then we asked the question, was there any counter directive to the president directive? None. Nobody was there to even present anything. And all the papers that we saw, they are not, I don't want to use the word fake, but we couldn't really get any reasonable connection between what the president directed and what those papers were all about. So those who are calling the papers fake, they are right, in a way. But there was no human being there to say, oh, this is what we did do. Apparently, they were on their own. Thank you, Mr. President.
Really very weighty issues, and when we arrive at any conclusion, we should be satisfied that we have asked all the relevant questions. So if there is no, I'll put question on the recommendation. And there is this recommendation that since the revocation of the Atala marginal field OML 46 was based on misleading information supplied by Harkin Exploration and Production Limited, and secondly, since NUPRC was unable to produce written evidence that Mr. President Muhammad Buhari, GCFR, who is also the Minister of Petroleum, actually reversed his initial directive on the consideration of owners, operators of Atala marginal field for the award, as claimed by Representative NUPRC, Dr. Kelechi Ofegbu, at a public hearing. The committee therefore strongly recommends that the Atala marginal field OML 46 be returned to its original owners, operators, in line with presidential directive, which was applied in returning the other 9 marginal fields to their original owners, operators. Those in favor of this recommendation say aye. Aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it.